The Milwaukee Brewers, a team that has been consistently good each year even after they lose some of their key stars. In the last 10 years, the Milwaukee Brewers have made the postseason 6 times. Keep in mind, the Brewers have only made the postseason 10 times within their entire team's history. As a lifelong fan of the Brewers, there's nothing I would want more than to see my team win a World Series. It's frustrating as a fan when you see other organizations be willing to extend key players to their roster, while the Brewers see players as a financial liability and would rather constantly look toward the future. And I'm not saying that there's only one way to build a World Series caliber team, because it has been proven time and time again that's not the case. You just need a team that can get hot at the right time. And unfortunately for the Milwaukee Brewers, that has never been the case. Today I want to take a deep dive to find out, why haven't the Milwaukee Brewers won a World Series? In 1969, the MLB would approve the expansion of 4 new franchises, those being the Montreal Expos and San Diego Padres in the National League, and the Kansas City Royals and the Seattle Pilots in the American League.
Seattle, the population capital of the Pacific Northwest, had long yearned for Major League athletic status. It enviously eyed the ascension of San Francisco and Los Angeles into baseball's big leagues. Unable to convince themselves that Seattle was indeed a major league community, the city remained cloaked in an atmosphere of anonymity and indifference. Unfortunately for Seattle, the team had virtually no support, and the team that was the Seattle Pilots, after one season, was told after spring training in 1970 that they weren't going to be going back to Seattle, but rather going to Milwaukee to become the Milwaukee Brewers. Like most newly expanded franchises, the Brewers were pretty terrible in their first few seasons, as a ball club not having a season above 500 until 1978. This, along with playing in the stacked AL East and a smaller playoff format with only 2 teams making the playoffs, resulted in a playoff drought for over 10 years. During this time, the Brewers would grow a young core who would soon make a big impact on the team's future.
More tower, more power, more Brewer baseball.
In 1981, the Brewers made their first postseason appearance in franchise history, although it was under unique circumstance due to the split-season format implemented by Major League Baseball, after a players' strike interrupted the 1981 season. The league decided to split the season into 2 halves, with the first half and second half division winners advancing to the playoffs. The Brewers finished the second half of the season with a 31-22 record, winning the AL East second half title.
Swing and a miss! Goodbye, Detroit! Hello, New York!
The first half winner was the New York Yankees, setting up their matchup in the inaugural American League Division Series. The Yankees took games 1 and 2, and the Brewers struck back for games 3 and 4, and finally, the Yankees overcame a 2-0 deficit with back-to-back home runs by Reggie Jackson and Oscar Gamble in the 4th inning of Game 5, winning 7-3. The Yankees would advance to the American League Championship Series before falling to the Los Angeles Dodgers in the 1981 World Series. This would be the first of many Milwaukee Brewer playoff losses to come, although the Brewers would be back the next season, and this time they put together arguably their best team in franchise history.
54,968. They are standing. The Brewers are just 1 out away from winning the American League Championship Series over the Angels.
After a disappointing loss in the Brewers' first ever playoff appearance, the crew was determined to make it back to the postseason, and they did just that. The 1982 Brewers, known as Harvey's Wallbangers, after manager Harvey Keene, were one of the best offensive teams in baseball that year. With future Hall of Famers and All-Stars such as MVP Robin Yount, Paul Molitor, Ted Simmons, Cecil Cooper, and Gorman Thomas, the Brew Crew led the AL in runs scored, home runs, batting average, slugging percentage, and team OPS. With such an explosive offense complemented by having a stacked pitching staff with AL Cy Young Award winner Pete Vukovich, future Hall of Famer Raleigh Fingers, and ace Mike Caldwell, the Brewers finished 95-67, first in the AL East, and now had to face off in a 5-game series against the red-hot California Angels in the American League Championship Series. The Brewers were back in the playoffs once again, and they were ready to make a statement, although things weren't looking too good at first. After losing both Game 1 and 2 yet again, the Brewers were facing elimination by Game 3. Although things weren't quite over yet, the Brewers again struck back with 2 wins in a row, tying the series up 2-2, resulting in a winner-take-all Game 5 in County Stadium. In the top of the first, right away, the Angels struck early, scoring 2 runs in the first off Pete Vukovich with RBI singles from Fred Lynn and Bob Boone. Then in the third, California extended their lead to 3-1 with a solo home run by Fred Lynn. Then, in the 7th, after trailing, the Brewers would mount their comeback. Cecil Cooper delivered a clutch 2-run single off Angels reliever Luis Sanchez, giving Milwaukee a 4-3 lead. This hit would arguably be one of the most important hits in Brewers history, with Cecil Cooper motioning the ball to get down, being a moment that's etched in every Brewer fan's memory. Then, Pete Ladd, filling in for the injured Raleigh Fingers, closed out the game, retiring Rod Carew for the final out.
Ladd ready. The 1-2 pitch. Ball lined to Yount. It's short. He throws. It's over. The Brewers have won the American League pennant. Milwaukee, you have a World Series.
They did it. It took 12 years, but the Brewers finally made a World Series. All that hard work, and now it was time to face the St. Louis Cardinals. In Game 1, things couldn't have possibly looked better for the Brewers. Opening in St. Louis, Caldwell threw a complete game shutout, allowing just 3 hits, while Paul Molitor set a World Series record, getting 5 hits, helping the team score a whopping 10 runs. Now, in Game 2, the Brewers put up a strong fight, leading 4-2 through the 8th, until the Cardinals answered back with 3 runs, highlighted by Ken Ogerfeld's RBI single and save by Bruce Sutter. After a tough Game 2 loss, the Brewers were back in Milwaukee, able to reclaim the lead in Game 4. And in Game 5, Robin Yount would go 4 for 4, becoming the first player with 2 4-hit games in a World Series, and Gorman Thomas hit a key 2-run double. Things were looking up, and the Milwaukee Brewers were only 1 game away from their first World Series title after a Game 5 win. All they had to do was win 1 more game in their next 2 games in Busch Stadium, and the World Series trophy would be theirs. Unfortunately, the Cardinals weren't going to let that happen, as St. Louis exploded for 13 runs in Game 6, including 6 in the 6th inning, forcing a Game 7 after a 13-1 loss. Now, with everything on the line, yet again, in a winner-take-all game, the Brewers had to deliver. With a 3-run lead, things were looking up until the Cardinals scored 3 runs in the 6th inning, highlighted by Darrell Porter's RBI single and Keith Hernandez's clutch hit. And just like that, the Brewers' World Series dreams were crushed. With 2 strong seasons and a young team, you would think the Brewers would be competitive for years to come, right? Wrong.
Memories of the 1982 Milwaukee Brewers is presented by Miller Lite, an official sponsor of the Milwaukee Brewers. When it's Miller Lite, less filling, tastes great.
In 1983, the Brewers missed the playoffs, and after a disappointing performance, manager Harvey Keene was fired. Then players like Gorman Thomas, Raleigh Fingers, and Paul Molitor were either traded away or signed elsewhere. After 1982, the Brewers went on an abysmal 26-year playoff drought, which was due to many reasons, including poor drafting, bad trades by management, and the team also switching leagues, now joining the National League Central and having to adjust to a whole new league of teams. Keep in mind, this was before the modern MLB schedule where every team played each other at least once a year. And all of this was being done while team owner Bud Selig was working on becoming the new MLB commissioner, which some believe resulted in him no longer putting the Brewers as his top priority, as he ended up selling the team to Mark Attanasio in 2005. So after an awful rebrand and a much better one, along with a brand new state-of-the-art stadium, the Brewers were ready to compete. And after an anticlimactic 2007 season, leading the division for most of the year, they fell 2 games short, finishing second in the NL Central.
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
And there's a drive to the left field. This is hit well. And it's gone! Ryan Braun! A 2-run home run! The Brewers take the lead!
After rebuilding a young core, the Brewers finally had enough star power to make a run. Led by a young Ryan Braun, and Prince Fielder, the offense was what powered the team. That, along with arguably the best midseason acquisition in franchise history in CC Sabathia. Sabathia had an 11-2 record by the end of the season with a 1.65 ERA. Sabathia carried the pitching staff on his back with multiple complete games, with a game that should have been a no-hitter. Despite firing manager Ned Yost in September, interim manager Dale Swaim and bench coach Robin Yount were able to elevate the Brewers to another level. This all led to a moment in Brewers history that every fan will never forget. After Ryan Braunt's key home run and a Mets loss on the final day of the season, the Brewers secured their spot in the postseason for the first time in 26 years.
On the ground, a chance here. Durham to Hardy to first. In time! Yes! The Brewers win! Yes! Sabathia, a complete game, and the Brewers beat the Cubs 3-1.
Unfortunately for the Brewers, their Cinderella story would come to a swift end when the Phillies beat them 3-1 in the National League Division Series. But the season marked a turning point in the franchise, letting everyone know that the Brewers were ready to compete again.
You got all of that one.
Well, they got all of that one, didn't they?
Aye.
You got all of that one.
Yeah, I did.
Guess I got all that one.
Prince Fielder, epic power hitter.
After ending their 26-year playoff drought, the Brewers fell short of the postseason the next 2 years, and after signing new head coach Ron Roenicke, the Brewers then traded for pitchers Zack Greinke and Sean Markham, which helped to elevate their starting rotation to the next level. Homegrown talent such as Giovanni Gallardo, Ryan Braun, and Prince Fielder made huge impacts on the team as well, with Ryan Braun winning MVP in 2011. The Brewers were ready to take the next step, winning their division and facing the Arizona Diamondbacks in the National League Division Series. And after 5 games, the Brewers stood, tied up 2-2 in the 10th, with Carlos Gomez on second and Nyjer Morgan, Tony Plush at the plate.
He's ready and delivers. Morgan, a smash up the middle, base hit to center. Here comes Gomez around third. A throw and the Brewers win. The Brewers are moving on a base hit by Nyjer Morgan. He's being mobbed.
At this point, the Brewers felt invincible. It was their first time winning a playoff series since 1982, and who else would the Brewers have to play with a World Series trip on the line but their former World Series opponent and division rival, the St. Louis Cardinals. And unfortunately, history would repeat itself once again, with the Brewers' luck coming to an end. And after putting up a fight, the Cardinals won in 6 games and went on to win the World Series yet again. 2011 was the last year that the Brewers were able to stay competitive with their young core that they had spent so hard building throughout the early 2000s. And with no other options, owner Mark Attanasio decided now was the time to gut the team and to rebuild for the future yet again.
Flies one into right center field. Back at the wall. Are you kidding? Home run. Woodruff. 1-1 in game 1.
Off of Clayton Kershaw ties the game. One apiece.
In 2018, the Brewers had a historic season with not only a stacked bullpen, but also a stacked starting lineup. The Brewers played a unique game of baseball in 2018, one that was different from any other team at the time. New head coach and former Brewer and hometown hero Craig Counsell, who had been a part of the 2008 and 2011 playoff runs, along with GM David Stearns, were able to take what had remained of the team of aging yet productive veterans and trade them into young and upcoming stars. Players such as Carlos Gomez and Mike Fiers, who were integral to the Brewers' success in the early 2010s, have been traded for young talent such as Astros prospect Josh Hader. Also, the choices to not extend players such as Prince Fielder, Zack Greinke, and Sean Markham, who would have had large paydays, resulted in owner Mark Attanasio, an owner notorious for not being willing to spend money, to have just enough money to sign some star talent in free agency. The the Brewers made some key acquisitions that transformed the team, which was only a game away from the playoffs the year before. The Brewers signed Lorenzo Cain to a 5-year, $80 million deal, and re-signed closer Jeremy Jeffress, who was dominant in 2019 with a 1.29 ERA. Aside from free agency, the Brewers also traded some of their top prospects for Christian Yelich, a gamble which paid off as Yelich has become the new face of the Brewers franchise, winning MVP in 2018.
Marlins get 4 prospects, and in time, the Marlins brass say this deal will pay off.
We felt like we added impactful championship caliber players and players that will be part of future Marlin championships as they reach the big leagues.
Some trade deadline acquisitions, such as Mike Moustakas, Jonathan Scope, and Joaquim Soria, helped to solidify the Brewers' spot in first place as they won the NL Central for the second time in team history. This year, the Brewers started off hot, sweeping the Rockies in the National League Division Series, meaning the Brewers were back again to the NLCS, this time against the Los Angeles Dodgers. In a David vs. Goliath series, the Brewers held their own through 7 games, staying right there with the Dodgers. They even started off swinging in Game 7 with a Christian Yelich home run to take the lead early. Just for a moment, there was a thought, a chance that the Brewers could return to the World Series. And then, all of a sudden, disaster struck.
Into left center field, this ball is in the gap and over the wall for a 3-run home run. Yasiel Puig has just made it 5-1.
After a lead-changing home run by Yasiel Puig and an amazing yet heartbreaking catch by Chris Taylor, the Dodgers held the Brewers in Game 7, and their World Series dreams were over yet again.
Door at third, Nimmo at first. The pitch. Swing and a ball drilled. Right field. Frelick back. At the wall. Out of here! It's out of here! Alonso an opposite field home run, and the Mets had the lead!
After the 2018 season, the Brewers still had a lot to look forward to. They still had a lot of their young core under contract, and their division wasn't as competitive, so trips to the postseason became a regular thing to expect for the first time ever for the Brewers. Unfortunately, playoff heartbreak would also remain expected. Since 2018, the Brewers have only missed the playoffs once, and as of 2025, they still haven't won a playoff series since that 2018 season. There's a lot of reasons as to why that's the case, but most people like to blame the Brewers' current owner Mark Attanasio, as the team has consistently been in the bottom 10 for payroll and has never taken the next step to re-sign their stars. For example, Willy Adames, an integral role player, leader, and fan favorite from the Brewers, who is loved by everyone, fans and players alike, decided to sign with the San Francisco Giants because Attanasio didn't feel like he was valuable enough to lock up to a high-paying long-term deal. Sometimes, deciding not to pay these stars pays off since the team can move on to a younger, cheaper, and more talented prospect, but if you're constantly looking towards the future, you can never go all in on the present. And it has really shown these past few playoff losses for the Brew Crew. Recently, Attanasio was on record in a recent interview where he was asked about the recent playoff struggles, and his response was, let's just say, concerning, as it doesn't seem like he's committed to bringing a championship home to the city of Milwaukee. Keep in mind, although Attanasio might not have as much money as some of the other MLB owners, he does have enough money for something like, I don't know, let's just say, buying a majority stake in an English soccer team. It just doesn't seem like owning the Brewers is his main priority, when it definitely should be. As of recording this video, the Brewers have had a rough start to the season to say the least, so it'll be interesting to see if the crew has what it takes to win it all this year, or if it'll be just another painful playoff loss and a long list of heartbreak. Should Attanasio sell the team? Are the Brewers on the verge of contending this year? How long do you think it'll take before the Brewers finally make a World Series or win it all? I just want to say thank you all so much for watching. This is my first ever video I've made on this channel, so if you want to see more content, leave a comment down below on what topic you want me to touch on next. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.
Roll out the barrel. We'll have a barrel of fun. Roll out the barrel. We've got the blues on the run. Sing a boom, carouse. Bring out a song of good cheer. Now's the time to roll the barrel for the gang.